Howdy tubes, welcome back to the Zach Life. So this video is going to be all about what does it take to legally drive one of these things down the road. What kind of driver's license do you need? How does it need to be titled? How do you tag it? How do you register it? How do you insure it? Etc. And I'm going to start out by saying that I don't know everything and I'm not a lawyer. And if I get something wrong and y'all figure it out and pick it out, type out a well thought out paragraph, something we can put in the comments, and I'll pin it. And I don't want false information. If I get something wrong, y'all correct me. Federal law in the United States is not really golly, my mind went blank. Enforced. It's not really used. The only place that federal law, as far as something like this goes, is enforced or used in the United States typically is in state law. So states in their laws and their statutes will cite federal laws and federal regulations so that, say for instance, what kind of lights you got to have on a vehicle. Tail lights, marker lights, blinker lights are the same in all the states of the United States because the federal law is cited or copied into the states in the state statutes. Now, that being said, federal law is not really used, so to speak. It's only cited. The state of Texas, now this will be state of Texas only. I don't know if I said that. The state of Texas has got a constitution. It's the supreme document of the land, and under that, it's got statutes or statutory regulation. These are laws that are written by the Texas legislature. And they are the laws. Now, these laws are the laws we're going to look at. You need to understand that the state of Texas and all the different states will put out things like title manuals and title handbooks, and I'll have to show you a few of those. But they're what, say for instance, goes to the DMV for the people that work at the DMV to be able to flip through and see what to do. They're a more user-friendly, easier to understand book than actually looking at the laws. Now, I want to go look at the laws because the laws are what you need to know. You can't hold a handbook out to a police officer and say, "Well, this says here you need to have, this is 502.001 of the transportation code. It says I don't have to have this. Go jump in a lake." And anyway, I want to look at those actual statutes of the actual laws. Now, there's something else to keep in mind. When we go over to show you this in a minute, all these different regulations and laws, statutes, are in different chapters and subchapters. Now, this is where this gets extremely confusing and hard to follow, because you'll run across things like, say for instance, at the heading of every chapter, there's a set of definitions, and these definitions are how a word is defined or used throughout that chapter. And one of the most confusing ones there are that I've ran across is the phrase commercial motor vehicle. Now, a commercial motor vehicle in the state of Texas law means many different things, and you have to take the definition as is defined in the chapter and apply it only to that chapter. And we'll make sure we'll show you why that matters here in a minute, because there's the definition of the commercial motor vehicle is very different between a couple of different chapters. So, what kind of driver's license do you need to drive a Toterhome? Uncommon knowledge in Texas is that a Class A, Class B, or Class C is unrelated to a CDL. You can have a Class A CDL, a Class B, a Class B CDL, or a Class C, or a Class C CDL. So, what do you need? So let's spin around here, get into the actual legislation, and find out. Okay, here we are at texas.gov. This is the actual statutes, the Constitution. We'll come down here and find the transportation code. Of course, I've already got all this stuff open. All right, transportation code, vehicles and titles, classification of driver's licenses. Okay, so there will be a bunch of definitions at the first of this chapter, but there's nothing really here that needs to be defined now. So paraphrasing here, a Class A license lets you drive a vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating above 26,000 pounds or a trailer of more than 10,000. Class B lets you drive a vehicle more than 26,000 pounds with a trailer of less than 10 or a farm trailer less than 20. Class C allows you to drive a vehicle of less than 26,000 pounds and less than 10,000 pound trailer. Class M is a motorcycle type of vehicle authorized. It basically says a license holder may operate any vehicle of a type for which the class is licensed and issued, and any lesser type of vehicle. Which means if you've got a Class A license, you can drive a Class B or Class C. That's makes general sense. Now let's come down here. We need to look at commercial driver's licenses. Where are they at? A CDL. The website's kind of slow. Let's open the whole thing up here. Okay, so we need to define in 522.003 a commercial motor vehicle. A commercial motor vehicle means a motor vehicle or combination of motor vehicles used to transport passengers and property that has a GVWR of 26,000 pounds or more. So this little phrase here is what you need to pay attention to. Is used to transport passengers or property. So this definition of commercial motor vehicle is a poor one. It would be better to write something like in commerce, even though I know why they couldn't, because something like a church van is not commerce, but it's still the transportation of passengers. When they say the transportation of passengers or cargo, they don't mean your personal pickup truck like you're going to Lowe's and buying junk and hauling home, or even a semi-truck with heavy equipment that you're just going to an equipment show or something. They're talking about for hire. The same way with hauling passengers. They don't care if you got 15 people in a you couldn't get 15 people, but 6 or 8 people in a Suburban. They're talking about a school bus or a church bus or someone that charges like a taxi. That kind of deal. A taxi wouldn't apply to this, but you get the point. They're talking about a business type situation, even if the business doesn't charge or doesn't make money. Okay, so we've established what a commercial motor vehicle is in this chapter, and then as you read through here, it goes through and describes all the things that make a motor vehicle a commercial motor vehicle or whatever, of everything this applies to. This chapter is only about commercial driver's licenses and who is required to them. If we come down here to section 522.004, who does this apply to? And it says that this chapter does not apply to a farmer, a firefighter, a military vehicle or commercial vehicle operated for military purposes, or a recreational vehicle that is driven for personal use. This right here, a recreational vehicle driven for personal use, does not apply to this chapter, which means a commercial driver's license is not required for a recreational vehicle driven for personal use. So we need to come down here and define recreational vehicle. In this section, a recreational vehicle means a motor vehicle primarily designed as temporary living quarters for recreational or camping use. This term includes a travel trailer, camping trailer, truck camper, and motorhome. So anything that has to do with pulling, travel trailer, camping trailer, truck, or motorhome does not require a CDL. So that's the deal with a driver's license. Sorry, I keep hitting my table and I see it vibrate. A Class A is required for something like this if you're going to haul a trailer. Class B for a trailer less than 10,000 pounds. If you've got a big fifth wheel motorhome, you've got to have a Class A. A CDL is not required, for one, because it's not in the transportation of property or people, and it's got a specific citation in there that says it does not apply to recreational vehicles. So the whole CDL thing is very cut and dry. So there's several different definitions throughout this, as I said, for commercial motor vehicle that are different than this one. However, most of them are worded pretty well the same, and the idea behind it is is using a commercial vehicle for a commercial entity, whether it's hauling kids to a church camp, or it's you know, a big truck running down the road or whatever. It's a commercial vehicle as a commercial entity, and that applies to driver's licenses. It applies to insurance in a way. It applies to, you know, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. It applies to the laws and regulations in weight stations. It applies to the different kind of DOT inspections and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of all the moving stuff. Now, there's several other commercial motor vehicle definitions, and they all sort of are similar, and they apply to sort of the paperworky type stuff like tags, titles, insurances, and that kind of stuff. And so we'll go over here to 502.001. Okay, so we're going to come over here to Chapter 502, Registration of Vehicles. Chapter 502, the definition of a commercial motor vehicle as it applies to the registration of vehicles. Means a motor vehicle other than a motorcycle or moped designed or used primarily to transport property. This is the difference. That a vehicle that is designed or used to transport property is considered a commercial motor vehicle as far as the registration of vehicles goes. Now understand that this is different than a commercial motor vehicle definition of what is required for a commercial driver's license. These definitions are in different chapters and applied differently. So this definition is used throughout the paperworky crap of the DMV, the tags, title, insurance, that kind of stuff. Understand that this definition is different than the definition that's used for what's required for a commercial motor vehicle driver's license, a CDL, commercial driver's license was what I meant. They use the same terminology, commercial motor vehicle, but the definitions are different, and you can't use a definition out of one chapter in a different chapter. And that's why this is so confusing and stupid, but nonetheless, here we are. So anyway, I'm fixing to tell you this, and you're going to go, what? But you need to know this. In the state of Texas, a commercial motor vehicle is something like, say you buy a new Suburban, and you take all the seats out of it. That is now considered a commercial motor vehicle. It's not a passenger car because it doesn't have seats in it. The same way with a private bus, if you pull all the seats out of it, it's not a commercial motor vehicle. Now, a recreational vehicle, you know, supersedes some of these, as we've already seen, but you need to understand this. As I've said twice, that definition of a commercial motor vehicle has nothing to do with a CDL requirement. There are different definitions in different chapters. But the state of Texas considered something like a minivan with no seats and no back windows, a panel van, and that's a commercial motor vehicle. Now, something else in the state of Texas, if you've got an insurance agent, if you own a business or something and you have one you work with, if you have something like that, or say a 3/4 ton pickup with a flatbed on it without a pickup bed, that's a commercial motor vehicle, and it requires commercial insurance. Now, the insurance on that flatbed pickup doesn't cost any more, I don't think. I assume it doesn't. The insurance cost doesn't change. It's just the wording that the state of Texas used. Texas calls that a commercial motor vehicle, so it requires it to have commercial motor vehicle insurance. Now, this is different than cargo or like insurance that would be required on a semi, but nonetheless. So, from here on out, I'm kind of done with the law where the state puts out several different handbooks, and we're going to just use those as the information we need. They are, if you would, the state's interpretation of its own laws, and they're much easier to read. It gives good examples and simple definitions. They're a lot easier to put up with than trying to read through all these laws. Now, the last two things we need to talk about is titling and tagging. Okay, this is texasdmv.gov. This is the Assembled and Reconstructed Vehicle Manual. And so we'll come down here to Chapter 11, Motor Vehicles Adapted and Designed for Human Habitation. Okay, it gives a definition here. Motorhomes are self-propelled vehicles constructed with built-in kitchens, sleeping facilities, etc. The body design is so that when attached to the chassis, it completely envelops and covers the chassis and engine of the original vehicle. These vehicles must be registered with passenger plates. We do not have a motorhome. I think that I fall under this category here, Chapter 11.1, of permanently mounted camper units. If a camper unit is designed so it is mounted directly and permanently on the chassis of a vehicle, verified by photos of the exterior of the vehicle, it should be registered with passenger plates. The vehicle should be titled and registered based on the combined vehicle weight, including the cabin chassis and camping unit. The body style must be indicated as motorhome. I think this is me. This doesn't have anything to do with the title. However, here's the converted trucks and buses. And you can read through here, a used truck, tractor, bus, which has been converted to contain living quarters to meet the definition of a motorhome, should be titled as a motorhome and registered with passenger plates. The problem is here, it's talking about a body or frame change would require the vehicle to be titled as an assembled vehicle following requirements outlined in Transportation Code 731. I'm not interested in this. I realize that you could probably get around any issues with this thing being called an assembled vehicle. I'm not even for sure that would apply. Anyway, it comes down here. This is the federal definition. This is federal law that defines a motorhome, and it's got to contain the following: live support systems, a permanently installed blah blah blah, cooking facility, refrigerator, toilet, heating, air conditioning, whatever. Anyway, talks about vans, sliding campers, and then new motorhomes that are designed as from the factory as RVs. At this point, I see no reason to change anything on the title. To me, I see this not as a converted truck, but as a permanently attached camper. To me, the converted truck, converted bus type deal would be more on the lines of like a sleeper that you put a toilet and a stove or something in. And that's not what this is. This is a purpose-built camper that's permanently attached to the truck. More specifically, the truck's attached to the camper, but whatever. So the next thing is the registration, putting tags on it. How do you tag it? I'm going to start out by talking, if you're not familiar with commercial vehicles, there are several different kinds of tags. And I know there's going to be more than these, but this is just sort of common what comes to my head. The first is like a passenger vehicle, passenger car, passenger truck. This is your typical F-150, your Toyota Corolla. This is the common car. Now, when you get into heavier trucks, and even like a 3/4 ton with a flatbed, even though if you go over there, they're probably not going to know it's got a flatbed on it. But like a truck larger than a 1 ton, F450, F550 will be a Texas truck, not a passenger truck. And this is what Texas considers a commercial motor vehicle. Now, as I've said 20 times, this is not in the same chapter definition as a commercial driver's license. This definition does not have anything to do with required driver's license. It is just what Texas considers it in the title and registration chapters. So anyway, let's look at this other handbook here. I forgot the name of it. All right, we're at the texasdmv.gov Motor Vehicle Registration Manual. So what we're going to do is go down here to commercial vehicles. Now you've got to remember this is a commercial vehicle because it's not a passenger vehicle. As I've said 10 times, this has got nothing to do with the CDL. So we want to go down here to Chapter 2. Commercial motor vehicles. Okay, the term truck means every motor vehicle designed and used or maintained primarily for the transportation of property, including passengers, including any passenger vehicles reconstructed for delivery purposes. This would include a Chevy Suburban, Tahoe, Ford Excursion, 4Runner, whatever. Alright, here we're down here at conversions, and it says to register commercial vehicles, vans, panel, etc., trucks, whatever, that have been converted to motorhomes with passenger registration classification. Passenger trucks, passenger cars. It talks about pickup trucks, The sliding campers or just pickup trucks. It gives a couple of examples here. This is a truck registration. This would be a passenger registration. So it gives recreational vehicles by defined under federal law here as a vehicle weights, blah, 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 the square footage, part models, camper trailers, utility manufacturing homes, mobile office trailer, trucks and tractors. Here's something else. A truck and tractor used exclusively for pulling travel trailers are registered with general issue license plates. Converted truck tractors and living quarters have the option to register as motorhomes with passenger registration. See above. So I couldn't figure out what the difference is in a general issue and a passenger plate. I think they're the same thing, except that the passenger has got 4 letters in there, like three letters and 4 numbers or something like that. It's just the layout of the plate. The registration is the same. The plate's just slightly different. But anyway, this is what I'm going to do. In fact, this is what I've already done. And everything worked as I expected. So what I did is I called in Wichita County. I got a hold of, I don't remember his name. It was a lieutenant, I think. It was some pretty up head honcho that worked for DPS. And I called a hold of him and I said, I've got some questions. I want to ask you some obscure what ifs, and I want you to answer them so that I can get the best information I can. He laughs at me. He goes, okay, what do you got? I said, all right. So I bought a 2021 brand new Peterbilt. I don't have a trucking company. I've got a Class C driver's license with air brake endorsement, and there's no DOT numbers. There's no FMS, no ICC numbers, MC numbers, whatever. I just want to take this thing, go buy groceries and haul my kids to school and go to church in it. And he says, well, that's not a problem. You don't need any of that stuff because it's not used in commerce. Now, by this other definition, it's a commercial vehicle, but it's not used in commerce. He said, however, if you cross state lines, you're going to have a hard time convincing them that you drive this truck as a personal passenger vehicle. And I said, well, I understand that. This is what I want to know. I said, all right, so I've got this truck, and I have now put a permanently attached camper on the back of it. It's an RV. And he said, well, there's no difference. And I said, well, what about if I tie onto it and pull a 50,000-pound trailer full of antique cars or engines or whatever else, and I go to a car show? And he says, well, that's not a problem either, except now you'll need a Class A license that's not a CDL to do this because your trailer is over 10,000 pounds. Now, you don't need DOT numbers. You don't need an IC MC number. You don't need authority of trucking authority MC number. And I said, okay, that's basically what I thought. That's what I wanted to know. So anyway, I get in this thing, drive it over to a place that does inspections. He starts inspecting. I said, I do not want a DOT inspection on this. I want a passenger vehicle inspection only. And he says, well, I'll give you anything you want, but when you go get tags for it, that's not going to work. I said, well, let's try it. So anyway, he does a passenger vehicle inspection on it. I go over to the tag office. I explain to them I have got a motorhome. I've got a semi-truck that's got a permanently attached camper trailer on it, and I need to register it. Here's my inspection. I want to register for 54,000 pounds. And she goes, I don't know how to do this. And kind of thought about it a while, and I had some paperwork, showed the kind of laws about how to do it. And I said, it says here it takes passenger plates. And she said, we can't put passenger plates on the truck. The computer won't let us. And I said, well, that's what it says. She gets on there, punches it in. She says, oh, it will. Okay, that's not an issue. That's not an issue. You want to register for 54,000 pounds. That'll be $784, whatever it was. It's $700-800. And bang, I was out of there. No big deal. It didn't even require a picture of it. She, I guess, just took my word for it. I think they're supposed to have a picture. Anyway, I get the question all the time, are you going to change the title over to a motorhome? I think there's absolutely no reason to do this. I think that it can be done in an obscure kind of way, but I don't think that it needs to be done, and I think doing it could cause some issues with insurance. By the way, with insurance, I don't have it insured yet. I just have liability only. I've got a commercial policy. I just called my insurance agent. I said, you know, I've got a motorhome I'm building. I want liability on this truck. Can you just stick it on one of my insurance policies? And basically, the insurance company just thinks it's a, you know, for-hire 80,000-pound truck. And I mean, it was kind of expensive, but you know, I'll get all that changed over here quickly. But I wanted to get it done and basically get it appraised before I went through all the rigmarole of trying to get insurance on it. I think the way we're going to insure, we talked about, is I've got a Haggerty policy with some antique autos on it, and she said that the way it looked like is you could insure that through Haggerty, and you could basically, you know, put any number you wanted on it. You say it's worth $1 million. Of course, they're going to want a, you know, if you total it, they're not going to pay you more than it's worth. But if I go have it appraised, you know, at $150,000 or whatever it appraises for, I'll insure it for whatever it's appraised for. And then it looked to me like Haggerty would actually insure it. I had to have a place to keep it and everything, you know, out locked or whatever. But anyway, that's about the size of it. I know this has went on for hours. I'm sure y'all are all dead from watching, but this is something I said I would do, and I just wanted to kind of take you through the steps and how I went about doing it. And you know, after sort of reading about how the laws work, or reading the laws and how they apply to this, you know, it was pretty straightforward. You know, I spent a very little amount of time with an inspection and run over and getting tags for it. I wasn't over there, you know, 15 minutes. And anyway, that's the deal. They had the one thing you're supposed to do that I got away with not doing was you're supposed to weigh it when you tag it as a motorhome with personal plates. They want a weight of it plus its carrying capacity, and we just sort of made a number up. I said, you know, I'm gonna register if it's 4,000 pounds, whether it weighs 10,000 or 50,000. And, you know, whatever is left over is what the carrying capacity is. And she said, well, I guess it makes no difference. I don't think you probably could get away with it in most places, but a small place like this, you could. I was able to. But anyway, they did want a weight certificate, but that's not a big deal. But anyway, appreciate y'all watching. It's already been down the road, and I've already got a video of it, so I'll get working on that video and have it out next week.